in the newsroom. In the past shows, we've been talking about Nicolas Sarkozy's right turn on the campaign trail. It's certainly drawn attention here, and not just here, by the way, elsewhere as well. The lead editorial of Tuesday's European edition of the Wall Street Journal, comparing France's incumbent president to anti-immigrant far-right leader Marine Le Pen. Sarkozy has shrugged off his foreign critics as anti-French. Meanwhile, though, he's also visited Paris's Grand Mosque this Wednesday, accompanied by the same interior minister who recently paid lip service to the far-right's ban halal meat suggestion. Sarkozy honored the memory of Muslims who died fighting for France in various wars. 39 days ahead of Election Day, many see this visit as a way of hitting the pause button on issues that seem to stigmatize Muslim voters. In a nation where Muslims number an estimated 5 million, we say estimated because actually census taking on the subject is illegal in this country. A number, by the way, that's expected to climb above 10% of the population within 2 decades. Today, the France 24 debate looks at Islam and the French elections. And with us to talk about it is Ijab Khoury, who's municipal councillor in Paris's 16th arrondissement district. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you,
also with us, Raquel Garrido of the left-wing Parti de Gauche. Thank you for being with us. And joining us from the Provence town of Aix-en-Provence is Raphaël Liogier. He's a sociologist and part of the association World Religion Watch. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
The France 24 debate, which you can follow on Facebook and on Twitter, our handle here, at François F24. As we were saying, the French president paying tribute to Muslims who gave their life for France and also spelling out his vision, one he's done before, of France's fastest growing religion.
We want a French Islam.
Islam de France.
And this is what we are working towards together. We are working towards an Islam of France, not just an Islam in France.
De France.
Not just an Islam in France. Raphaël Liogier, what does he mean when he says that?
I think, in fact, Nicolas Sarkozy is trying to bet on 2 horses at once. He's trying in the same time to try to capture the very right-wing, extreme right-wing votes, and in the same time, he does want he also wants to have the Muslim vote. So that's the reason why he's playing on words.
But what does it mean, in your view, an Islam of France?
When he says an Islam of France, it means that it has to be a French Islam with no aesthetic exterior characteristics. For instance, with the veil and with everything that will be more of a cultural external signs. I mean, it was for the last 10 years. The visibility of Islam has been an obsession in the French debate for the last 10 years. So what he wants in fact to what we could say I don't know if it works in English, but to say to naturalize Islam. Like if you gave Islam kind of a French citizenship with all the aesthetic characteristic of what is supposed to be a French person. It's interesting, by the way, because you have a very interesting book that was published in the 50s by Jean-Paul Sartre. It was called Reflection on the Jewish Question, and he actually raised the same issue that is actually now raised for Muslims. He said that everybody always said that they accept Jewish as long as they will become really French Jewish. But for Jean-Paul Sartre, that meant they had to give up everything that constituted their identity. So it's the reason why it's kind of hypocritical to say that. It's like you can be Muslim in France, but you have to give up what constitutes your identity, all the kind of
Ijab Khoury, let me ask you. Do you agree that, in other words, that when he means an Islam of France, that he's talking about a religion that stays within the strict confines of the French Republic?
Yeah, I will answer to you, but first I want to say that Muslims are very, very active in this campaign. There is a lot of association of citizens who are into this campaign, and they are for Nicolas Sarkozy. We admit that you are suffering for some declarations made by some government responsible, but anyway, it's not the official policy of our movement.
It was the interior minister who paid lip service to that halal movement.
You know, I think that
And the
a
Prime Minister.
temporary subject to play against Marine Le Pen, and
Against the far right.
recently a lot of support committees. You know, the half of these committees they are Muslim. They support the president in the totality of his work, and they work hardly for this fight.
So for you, what does it mean, this issue of Islam in of France?
You know, because you are in a republic, laïque. It's a laïque
Secular.
republic. It's a laïque republic.
Secular.
And you know, the Muslim who's living in France, they have to consider that they have duties, and they have to c'est-à-dire respect. They have to respect this when they are living in France. And I'm sure they are very integrated inside the society, the French society. And sometimes we make some polemic about them, behind them, but it's not true. You have about 10 millions of Muslims who are living in France, and the polemic is made by who and for what? And they don't know. You know, when you go to the shop, you can buy halal meat, you cannot buy it. You can buy cashier meat. And, you know, for me, it's not a problem.
All right, a storm in a teacup. Raquel Garrido, your thoughts on what did the president mean when he's talking about Islam?
The president's in campaign, and I'll tell you, I think, why he's focusing on the Muslims. But we have to understand that this comes from far behind. The Algerian war left in France an inheritance of severe racism against the Arabs. This is something underlying in France since the Algerian war. And the far right has shifted that very official anti-Arab discourse into an anti-Muslim discourse. Because of the secular institutionality in France, they understood that it might be easier to be anti-Muslim than to be anti-Arab. But at the end of the day, it's the same old racist view of the Algerian war. And what's happening now is because Nicolas Sarkozy doesn't want to have a general debate on what he's done for the past years, or on the crisis, or the European situation, or the non-redistribution of wealth, whatnot, he's trying to find scapegoats. And he's using the same scapegoats than the far right is. So there's a far rightization, is that what I say, of the UMP, the main right-wing party. That's why he's being called Nicolas Le Pen. I mean, everybody's seeing what's going on. He's trying to be the common candidate of the right and the extreme right, and finding scapegoats. Because as long as we're talking about
But that's not what he did
or,
this Wednesday. And this Wednesday, he went and paid tribute to Muslims who died for their country. This was not a stigmatization exercise.
No, it's true, but you know, it's not one-fold. But the Prime Minister, as you underlined, said openly that if there were too many immigrants in France, then we would end up having halal food in schools, which is outrageous, because it's not understanding that France is a real melting pot. It's not like the United States. In the United States, we usually say that the United States is a melting pot, but in that pot, people actually don't melt. They don't melt in. They keep into communities. In France, we actually do melt in. This is the place in the world where you have the highest levels of mixed marriages. And there is not an addition of little communities. We have one big national community, and what makes the core identity of this country is the political idea of égalité, equality, liberty, solidarité, fraternité. So, but that national idea was totally destroyed by the right wing and by ultra-liberal policies. Because if you don't put money into schools, into health, into solving environmental issues, well then that's how you create, returns to your other identities. We all have other identities. I, for instance, come from Chile. And I feel very sadly when my own president is campaigning against foreigners. For instance, there's a rule in France that if you pay while you're working, if you pay to get pensions, well, one day eventually you will get a right to a pension. And what the president has said recently is that people who have worked in France for maybe 4 years or 4 years and a half and paying duties will not be able to get pensions because now he wants there to be a 5-year limit.
Stigmatization of foreigners, stigmatization of the Muslim religion. Should point out here, as Interior Minister in 2003, Nicolas Sarkozy complained that there was no single entity that the French state could turn to in its dealings with French Muslims. He instituted at the time a National Muslim Faith Council. Now, since becoming president, as you're about to see, it's been an up and down relation at time with, as we've been saying, a growing number of voters who are of the Muslim faith. Catherine Nicholson reports.
The kind of meat you eat, not normally a hot political issue, but earlier this month, leading members of Nicolas Sarkozy's party got drawn into a row over halal meat that many saw as an assault on Islamic values. It's just the latest in a string of clashes between the government and France's second biggest religious group. Last April, it became illegal to wear the burqa or any other full-face veil. Some called it an attack on religious freedom, while several women said they'd been physically attacked for defying the ban. For the president, however, it's a clear question of defending French values.
Not that long ago, some people opposed the ban on the burqa because they didn't have the courage of their convictions. I remember those who wanted to keep men and women separate in public swimming pools because they were prepared to compromise our Republican values. I say, no compromises on our Republican values.
But exactly what those values are and how Islam fits in with them is less clear. A debate in 2009 on national identity and a similar one last year on France's secular values were both criticised by the Muslim community and widely deemed a failure. They've had an effect on Nicolas Sarkozy's popularity too. On his election, 39% of Muslims found him a satisfactory president. On the latest figures, that's dropped to just 16%. The president's visit to the Paris Central Mosque is slated as a moment of homage to Muslim soldiers who died fighting for France. But observers also see it as a pre-election attempt to smooth over this most bruised of relationships.
Ijab Khouri, you were saying earlier that not all Muslims vote for the left, and that poll, though, shows that he's lost a lot of support over these past 5 years, the president. Why is that?
I don't think he lose that. There is so many things we are saying. I want to speak about National Front and the socialists. They are hiding their incapacity to propose a real program. And behind this topic, anyway, Mr. Sarkozy, is proposing to regulate this history when you talk about meat halal and the strict control by ticketing, and that the people can choose whose meat he can eat. And it's for Muslim French. But you say dossier about the celebrating today, of the for the memory of the First and the Second World War. It's very important. Nicolas Sarkozy, he came there to the mosque to tell them, I'm there for you. For your holy blood, and you are a full citizen French. It's very important, and I think it's not true that the Muslim will not vote for him. There is 34 committees who was there, yes, on Sunday. and they are all working for the president, for Sarkozy. Why they are working for him? Because for them, he is the most person who can take them away from the crisis. But you know, as at least the French Muslim, he is about anyone, you know, a citizen. He's a citizen, a French citizen. He's worrying about things every day. For his home, for his job, for his kids. Not only about, halal meat and to eat halal or not to eat. It's not that the problem.
That's probably the reason why it's wrong to talk to people through their religious authorities.
No, he was not the first who talked about that. It's what Marine Le Pen.
I understand. I agree with you on that point. What I accuse is the fact that he tries to campaign.
Problem. Why? Because in the first for 2-3 months, she talked always about, the signature, and after that, she can talk about what? About halal meat.
All right, let's get away from. Let's try to get away.
Let's try to get away from.
Let's try to get away from Marine Le Pen a second. And I want to put a question here to Raphaël Lioger before we go to the break. A study published last August by a polling institute, IFOP, said that French Muslims are increasingly religion. 71% say they fast during the month of Ramadan. 49% say they buy halal food. If they're turning more and more to going to the mosque, there's now more than a quarter who say they do. Does that mean that they're in favor of more traditional values? There you see the numbers over 2 decades. More in traditional values. Wouldn't that make it that French Muslims should be voting more for right-wing values and for a conservative candidate?
No, I think it's not related, in fact, because we are not in. In fact, what is happening is that there is a more important intensity in the practice of French Muslim at the moment and European Muslim in general. But it is not something that is specifically Muslim. It's what we don't we don't see it because we are obsessed by Muslim. But there is more intensity in youth, in young people now, not only in Islam, but in Christianity and in Buddhism and other things. That there is a different shape in the entire religious field. But because we focus on Islam, we are obsessed. We are obsessed by that. We think about halal and all that. But halal is just what we could call a global consuming new niche, like people that eat only vegetables or eat different things according to their belief, etc.
I'm going to have to interrupt you, Raphaël Lioger, because we're going to have to take a break. Hard to get away from the halal meat discussion. When we come back, though, we're going to try to look at the broader picture and whether France is alone or whether the trend of this stigmatization and courting of the Muslims is Europe-wide. You're watching the France 24 debate.
Four candidates. Only one nominee. Follow the 2012 US primaries live on France 24.
Watch France 24 live and free on your mobile phone. Anywhere in the world, on almost any cell phone, whatever your provider. Watch France 24 live and in 3 languages. France 24 on your mobile phone. Just visit our website, france24.com, and click on mobile. Select your phone brand, enter your phone number, and you'll receive a free SMS telling you how to install our player. You can watch France 24 live and get the latest world news for free on your mobile.